We recently covered Rosh Hashanah and its origin, which is rooted in Leviticus. But there's another holiday that is being celebrated right now throughout the world, which is also rooted in the monstrosity of Leviticus, and that is Yom Kippur. So I thought in honor of this holiday, we would read number 48 from our Bible, the Scapegoat, Leviticus 16. The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of Aaron's two sons who died after they entered the Lord's presence and burned the wrong kind of fire before him. Aaron must take from the community of Israel 2 male goats for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He is to cast sacred lots to determine which goat will be reserved as an offering to the Lord and which will carry the sins of the people to the wilderness of Azazel. When Aaron has finished purifying the most holy place and the tabernacle and the altar, he must present the live goat. He will lay both of his hands on the goat's head and confess over it all the wickedness, rebellion, and sins of the people of Israel. In this way he will transfer the people's sins to the head of the goat. Then a man specially chosen for the task will drive the goat into the wilderness. As the goat goes into the wilderness, it will carry all the people's sins upon itself into a desolate land. This is a permanent law for you, to purify the people of Israel from their sins, making them right with the Lord once each year. We'll skip over the King James Version. Aaron's slaughterhouse is about to make some serious history in paving the way for what will become the holiest day in Judaism, Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement. This Sabbath of all Sabbaths is a day of focusing on individual spiritual well-being and requires a 5-fold abstaining from pleasures such as eating and drinking, wearing leather, bathing, shaving, brushing one's teeth, and having sex. Failure to rest and abide by the rules of what is otherwise known as the 5 afflictions risks one being destroyed, compliments of the destroyer. From Leviticus 23, 29-30. Verse 1 is a 2-pronged treat. Firstly, it establishes who the mastermind is behind the forthcoming derangement. Make no mistake, this is another divine ordinance spoken by God himself to his conduit, Moses. Secondly, it gives a teaser for the upcoming passage and commentary on Nadab and Abihu. The chapter proceeds in leading up to the grand finale of fatuousness by meticulously detailing the animal slaughters and blood rituals Aaron must perform while cloaked in sacred garments. Mystical rites are enforced, specifying the locations of where and how many times to sprinkle the blood of the sacrificial bull and goat. This sacrificial goat is one of the 2 chosen by way of casting lots or casting bones, which is better described as rolling dice to reveal God's will. Essentially a means of divination, also known as kleromancy, of which was a common practice among pagans and many other cultures, including you-know-who. Oh, and it was also common among witches, those that are to be murdered according to Exodus 22:18. It's finally happy magic hour at the tent of meeting, which means it's time for Aaron to convert the sins of the Israelites into electromagnetic waves and transfer them to the head of the goat. The goat is then sent to the wilderness. In addition to a whopping 4 reminders that this specific entire process of atonement be an everlasting statute, or a permanent law, the rabbis of the Talmud decided to alter things a little and spice up the magic. In Mishnah Yoma 6 of the Talmud, a newly introduced strip of scarlet-dyed wool was tied to the head of the goat and to the door of the temple. When the goat reached the wilderness, the thread would turn white, as it is written, "Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow." Isaiah 1:18. This color-changing phenomenon was the indication that God had forgiven the sins of the people. Sadly, they also felt it necessary to revise the fate of the goat by adding some carnage. Yoma 6:6 says, "What did the one designated to dispatch the goat do there? He divided a strip of crimson into 2 parts, half he tied to the rock, and half he tied between the 2 horns of the goat. And he pushed the goat backward, and it rolls and descends, and it would not reach halfway down the mountain until it was torn limb from limb. Whereas before the innocent goat was sent to merely wander, the Talmudic version calls for its launch off a cliff. This practice, later coined as the scapegoat, fell out of favor within Judaism. That's Yom Kippur. See ya.